Hello, everyone. My name is Jamika Pankey. My pronouns are she and her. I am the AWS Global Sales and Marketing, Change Management, and Operations Leader. And I'm super excited to be here today. I support the Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity team. Today, we'll have a fireside chat with Stephanie Espy. We'll learn a little bit more around an organization that she created called STEM Gems. Stephanie is an author and a CEO of this organization. We'll take a deeper dive into how this has created and will create a pipeline for early career talent for young women across the globe. Without further ado, I'll bring up Stephanie. Stephanie, how are you down there in beautiful Atlanta?
Hey, Jamika. I'm doing pretty good. How's New York?
New York is cold and we have winter way too early, but I'm super excited to put on my coat. I'm glad to have you here today.
I'm very excited to be here.
So welcome to reInvent. This is our 10th year anniversary, and we're excited, and we really wanted to focus on our community pillar. How do we bring the community together and talk about STEM-related items? So thank you for being one of our hosts, one of our speakers.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here at the reInvent conference, and thank you for everybody that's tuning in today, and also AWS for hosting this wonderful conference.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right into it. What made you get into STEM Gems? Like, what was your career path? Walk us through your career path and your career journey before STEM Gems.
Yeah, so let's see. I go back, fast forward to I guess high school is when I decided I wanted to study engineering. So I had a really affinity towards chemistry and towards math. And so I decided to study chemical engineering in college. And so I applied to many different colleges and I decided to attend MIT. I actually spent a summer there after my junior year of high school. So I got introduced to the campus and to met different students there and had a wonderful experience there. So I attended and spent 4 years at MIT studying chemical engineering. And what I noticed is when I had different internship experiences while I was a student there, I was always the only or one of very few engineers that was a woman, or that was especially a woman of color. So it was really shocking to me because growing up, I had so many role models that were engineers in my family. And so I wasn't expecting to get into an engineering career or even an intern. At this point, it was an internship and be the only one. So I remember just wondering, like, why aren't there more women here? Engineering is such a career where you can make a big difference and lots of exciting things going on, but yet there's not enough representation of women. And that's something that always stuck with me.
Yeah. We've seen this happen quite so often in so many different industries. But I want to peel back the layers a little bit about that. What did that feel like walking into those rooms and you were the only one? You know, did you feel included? If you did or did, like, walk us through what that journey was like. I really would love to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, well, at first it was a little shocking. And it was shocking because when I was in high school taking chemistry, calculus, physics, I was never the only woman. In fact, there were lots of women, lots of girls in my classes. It was also shocking because when I was in college, I was also never the only woman. It was a really good representation at MIT of my male peers and my female peers in my classes, in my major. So it wasn't until I got my first taste in a professional setting that I was just really shocked. I was like, wow, this is so different from what I'm used to in high school and used to in college. So it was just more of like a note to self, like, this is weird, it's odd, it's different. I was fortunate enough to have a manager who was extremely supportive and really excited that I was there. And then I also got a mentor who was also just really, really helpful and open and really showed me the ropes. And I learned a lot from both my manager and my mentor. But in the back of my mind, I was just yearning for support and relationship with other women. And there just weren't any in engineering. If I wanted to have a conversation with a woman, I had to go into the administrative side to really connect with women. So I just sort of like yearned for those relationships, those conversations, those friendships that, between people that I could really relate to that I didn't have. I went to have just closer bonds to people. And I found that, but I found that with women in different parts of the company.
Do you feel like because you are you're the only woman in most spaces, probably the only woman of color, maybe the person of color. Do you feel like when you encountered another woman or another person of color, did you feel like it felt like a sense of competition? Or did you feel like, hey, we're in this together, let's work together? How did that feel? I've often heard that it felt more competitive versus being team oriented. Would love to know what your experience was like.
In my experience, it was like, yes, there's more of us. It was like, yes, I see you.
You just won the lotto.
Oh, yeah. It was like, okay, I'm not the only one. I mean, you definitely yearn for more. And so when you saw someone else walk the halls, you're like, who is that? Who is that person? Who is that other woman? Who's that person of color? I really want to connect with them. I want to find out who they are. And it was more that, again, have that support. Support is extremely important, especially for women and people of color, and especially a woman of color. And so to find support from anyone is really, really important. And when you first enter into a new experience, your professional life, you really want to make sure that you have people around you that can support you in that
Sure.
experience. So for me, it was very exciting, and I was looking for it. And when I saw someone else, and not even knowing what capacity they were in, engineering or something else, I was always really excited and wanted to get to know that person.
Yeah, I like what you said there, right? It is that feeling of joy, especially when it's reciprocated on both ends. I want to push a little bit further. Did you feel like there were times when you walked in a room and you couldn't find your voice? Did you see the imposter syndrome come up? Like, walk us through what that was like for you in those spaces.
Yes. And so I think my first experience, I remember dealing with this imposter syndrome, this idea that I don't belong, was actually when I was in graduate school. So I went through 4 years of undergraduate school. I did internships every summer. Those internships, again, I was one of few women in all of my different internships, or the only. And then I decided after graduating from MIT to go to graduate school and to study chemical engineering on a higher level. And it was there that I started feeling the imposter syndrome for the first time. A feeling like, do I really belong here? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Is this really for me? I was the only Black woman in the program. And actually, I think there were no other Black men. There were people of color from different backgrounds, a lot of international students. But I just couldn't relate a lot to them because of the language barrier. And oftentimes I just felt that, it didn't feel like I was meant to be there. I would walk into the room and there would be a crowded room of other graduate students. And I would just try to find my place, trying to find my people, trying to find how do I fit into this group of really smart, talented researchers and scientists and engineers. And, it took a lot of time to get to the point where, no, I deserve to be here. I belong here just like anyone else does. I earned my way here just like everyone else did. I'm smart. I'm talented. I belong here. That took a lot of time. And, but eventually I did get there. And initially it was a little bit, that feeling of just like, oh, okay, how do I navigate this space? How do I find my way? How do I make sure that I have a voice?
I love it. I mean, we have to be that person that champion ourselves. When we feel that we're slipping below the line and we're starting to feel victimized and we're starting to think imposter, I'm like, wait a minute, I have the credentials. This seat is here and I'm going to take up all the space. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to go into what made you say, I've enjoyed corporate America. I've brought so many great things I've learned. I want to do something in my community. How did the evolution of STEM Gems even come about?
Yeah, so STEM Gems came about way after, earning degrees, college, work. It was something that it was instilled in me in that very first internship that I talked about. So that first internship was at a manufacturing plant. We manufactured high performance polymers. I was the only female engineer there. And that initial shock is something that has never fully left me. And then it just kind of continued on throughout other experiences. And so when I was at Berkeley, I decided to do a program that introduces engineering students to business and business students to engineering. And so it was a cross department program. And I participated in that program, and that's when I sort of was introduced to this idea of business and combining my background as an engineer with some other skills that, that they were learning in the business part of the school. So it was here that I was like, you know what? I could probably do something to make sure that the next generation, right? So that people who are behind me can navigate this space a lot better than what I have done, or just learn from experiences I've had. And also, I want to do something that brings women together to sort of have this bigger support system. Because I think what I was really lacking at the time was help in navigating these spaces. And, you fall a lot, you fail a lot, and then you learn a lot. And so how do I make sure that I can help out someone else? And so these moments, these thoughts, these moments, these feelings never left me. And so it was fast forward years later, after earning an MBA, that I decided I was going to create something that I was extremely passionate about. And it went back to those moments of just wanting and yearning for support, connection, mentorship, deeper roots with different people that look like me, and wanting that from an earlier age, and knowing the importance of that at an early age, and wanting that for more girls, and also wanting to see more women in the space that I was in, because there just weren't a lot. So that's why it was like a light bulb went off when I decided to do this, because it was like, of course you're going to do this. This is something that you've always been passionate about, and it's something that can help so many different people.
Well, congratulations for owning that, right? I think the biggest part that you said that really captured me is we don't have enough mentorship. And when I say we, I'm speaking as a Black woman, intersectionality in this space. And we don't often have so much grace to fall and then get back up. So hearing it, you said, hey, I didn't have that. I was very fortunate to still be celebratory and get some amazing accolades and do some wonderful things. But there are times when people fall and they never can get back up. So thank you for sharing that story. And I'm happy that you were able to land right where you belong, right? But my question next goes to, why young girls? Why not go into the college sector? Junior college sector. How did we decide to go into the young girl space? And how did you determine which age group?
I'm so excited for this question. Thank you for asking, because I feel like there is in terms of big corporations, there's a lot of work and energy being put into college and above, and there's a lot of recruiting efforts, and of course, companies looking to hire talent, and that's all great, but it does start a lot earlier than that. If you look at purely just the numbers, women represent less than 20% of those earning degrees in engineering and computer science. And so when you look at less than 20% of those earning degrees, you sort of, you got to start earlier to get those numbers up. If you want to see women representing 50% of those earning degrees in engineering, computer science, and physical sciences, then you have to start way earlier than college. You have to go backwards to K through 12 space. And so that's why I start 5th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that middle school age group. That's when a lot of girls have expressed interest in science and math and technology early on, but they start losing the interest once they get to middle school. So we're losing so many girls in middle school that are passionate about STEM. They were, early on, but now things get more complicated. They go through puberty. They have lots of social pressures. And so for different reasons, they're shying away from subjects that they're not perfect in, and that subjects that are challenging them. And that's really when they want to embrace those areas and really, propel forward and not fall backwards. And so that's where I come in and say, no, let's stick with this. Let's explore this a little bit deeper. Another thing is, again, thinking about why that age group is because girls want a career where they can make a difference. They want to do things to help people make a difference in the world. And they don't connect that all the time to careers in technology and engineering and in science. And so, again, I come in to help them see the connections and make it crystal clear what a future for them could look like if they were to pursue one of these different STEM areas.
You know, Steffi, I like something that you said here. And when I go back to Jamika in the fifth grade, wasn't too long ago, might I add. For me, one minute I wanted to be a fashion major. The next minute I wanted to be a doctor, lawyer. And but when I thought about chemistry or engineering, it kind of gave the stereotype of the stigma of being a nerd, which wasn't the cool thing in school, right? You think about weird science and et cetera. My question is, how did you get young people? How do you get young people in the fifth and sixth grade, young females, to be interested in a STEM-related role? Like, how do we get that nerd concept out of there?
You know, I think that's why it's so important to do this work, because I think when I can meet these young people and I show them who I am, then they have a whole new vision of what an engineer looks like. You know, so that stereotype of being a nerd or being an uncool person goes away immediately when they're able to see real people who look like them, who are engineers and scientists. So no longer do they associate these things with being a nerd, when they can now say, I've met an engineer, I've met a scientist, and she is cool, and she is smart, and she is approachable, and she is all these things that I am too, or that I aspire to be. So I think, you know, back when you and I were both in fifth grade, we didn't have the examples, you know, to be able to say, wow, like that actually is something that I want to do, because it's not as nerdy as I thought it was. I think sometimes nerd has this negative connotation, but really, if you think about it, it's more about just being smart and inquisitive and curious. And those things are really what a nerd is, right? You don't have to wear glasses and funny looking clothes. You don't have
Steve Urkel.
Right, exactly. You don't have to be the Steve Urkel type. You can be a normal person wearing fashionable clothes, having multiple interests, and love science and love math and love technology. And we just have to make sure that our next generation of girls in STEM have plenty of role models at their fingertips, so they can, you know, debunk that myth, that stereotype of what a STEM professional looks like.
You know, I think it's something you said that's really interesting. And when we think about debunking the myth, it's about being your true inclusive self. So when you don't look a certain part, because that's what you've seen everyone look like in that space, and you be who you truly are, you can see a scientist wearing stilettos, right? You can see a scientist wearing their favorite pair of sneakers. It's almost like, how do we be our true authentic self and embrace that diversity that is in that tech space? So my next question is, how important is diversity in tech?
It is extremely important. I love that you gave those examples. I just finished watching a documentary called Not the Science Type. And one of the scientists in that documentary talked about how she loves to wear red lipstick. And and she initially felt that lipstick made her feel as if she didn't belong, that she was that sort of, you know, she couldn't be her full self, because her full self is someone that loves makeup and loves red lipstick. So she had to learn to bring her full self into her workplace, and for people to accept that a scientist can also wear red lipstick. And her, and doing that diverse perspective, just being who she is, and her diverse perspectives and thoughts adds to the community, not takes away from it. And because we're living in a society where technology is exponentially increasing with the advent of computers and the internet, it's extremely important that we have a diverse group of people from, I'm talking about diversity of age, of gender, of race, religion, every sense of the word, at the table, solving problems that affect, you know, a global world, not just the same type of person. So if we truly want to make changes in the world, we have to have those diverse perspectives and people to do so. So, and that includes women and includes people of color from underrepresented backgrounds in STEM. So it's extremely important that we have more girls and more people of color in the STEM space, so that we can make sure that as we think about solving problems, as we think about changing the world exponentially, that we're not leaving people out of that.
Yeah, I think that happens often, right? The leaving people behind. Who are we leaving behind and why? And then the equity gap continues to grow, right? And we still continue to have this opportunity where we're not able to close that gap because we're not thinking outside the box. We're not being inclusive. So thank you for sharing that, because that just kind of sparked a light bulb to our next transition. So when I think about STEM gems, I'm thinking about role models, right? How do you determine who's the right role model for the young ladies? And what are they teaching? What is some of the curriculum behind STEM gems?
So a role model could be anybody that is doing the work and that is breaking the barriers and that is debunking the stereotypes. So it's plenty of role models out there, both past and current, that are available to show the next generation of STEM professionals and leaders what's possible. And so I think that when you ask who can be a role model, all of us who are doing the work every day to better our world, to solve big problems that affect so many people, they're the role models. And I consciously share role models all the time, so you can see it's the everyday person that is doing the work. And when you think about the STEM Gems curriculum, it is centered primarily around the STEM Gems book, which features 44 amazing, phenomenal, diverse women of different backgrounds, ages, races, religion, part of the world. And what's also really important is that they are in spaces, in careers that are hugely underrepresented by women. So they are constantly challenged and also constantly breaking down barriers and overcoming challenges. And that, again, is really important for role models to be able to say, here's how I was able to do it. Here's what I had to come up against, and here's how I was able to do it. So the curriculum is inclusive of lots of hands-on activities that connect the career and the woman to the activity. So if you do an activity that centers around, say, for example, circuits, which is all about electrical engineering, and it tells a story of a woman pioneer in electrical engineering. You do that activity, and you love that activity, then you can say, wow, I can too be an electrical engineer like fill in the blank, role model that represents that career. If you do an activity around purifying water, because there's still, of course, lots of parts of the world that don't have clean water. So you have to think about ways to distill water and make it clean. And so creating a water filtration system, for example, is one of the activities that the kids do. Then they can say, wow, this is hugely impactful. It's helping people around the world, especially in countries that don't have clean water. And if I enjoy this activity, then I too can be a chemical engineer like fill in the blank role model, who is really showing the impact of her career through the activity. So all of our activities are connected to a career that the girls can name and own, as well as connected to a woman in that career where the girls can say, wow, I love the work that she's doing and I want to be like her. I want to be better than her.
I love it. I love it. You know, as a girl, I always wanted to be Claire Huxtable. Okay. The cat is out the bag. The world knows. I wanted to be Claire Huxtable. I wanted to be that powerhouse, successful attorney because the way she carried herself is the way that she positioned her career, the type of trials that she took, the clients that she had. But we have to admit, it's also the swag too, right? But I could just relate to her, and I wanted to be like her. And so when you're thinking about some of these role models that are in your book and that you shared, do you have any like quotes or thoughts from some of the young girls who've attended and some of the things that they said? Did they find their Claire Huxtable?
You know, and when you were talking about that example, it's a great example. Imagine if Claire Huxtable was a scientist, or imagine if Claire Huxtable was an engineer. how many girls would then want to be an engineer or scientist if she was that role versus, an attorney? A lot more. So you're right. Like society and popular media culture impacts what we see and what we want to be. So yes, when girls are able to meet real people who are like Claire Huxtable to them, and see like, wow, that is so cool. She has swag, she has confidence, she's making a huge difference in the world. She carries herself well, she speaks well, she is doing some really amazing things. She's done a lot of cool things. She's traveled here and there. She's solved some pretty intense problems, or she's working to solve pretty intense problems. Then yes, they too have that same passion that you have for being Claire Huxtable, for being, fill in a blank role model. So that's why it's really, really important to give girls role models, because there's not enough Claire Huxtables in the world that are featured and on television season after season after season, year after year after year, where girls can, see that constant exposure, that constant repetition, where yes, everybody wants to be like that. So I like to think of the role models that I present in the STEM Gems book. I call them the Beyonce of their field, the Taylor Swift of their field, the Adele, right? In their respective area of STEM, they are that person. They're doing the work. They're doing the work. They're showing you that you can be a badass scientist, engineer, technologist, right? But also, have a passion for music or art or whatever it is. You can be multifaceted. You can be cool. You're not that nerdy stereotype of person. You're a whole person. And I think once girls can see that and feel that and connect all of that to, again, real hands-on activities and learn all the cool things you can do, then yeah, they start feeling that this is something that is open, available to them as well. And they start to picture themselves in these roles and picture how they too can make a difference in the world the same way that these role models have, or even bigger.
So if I'm a parent, how do I get my child in STEM Gems? Walk me through the application or enrollment process.
Yeah, so there's a couple different offerings that STEM Gems has. So the very minimum offering is the STEM Gems book. And the book is something that parents can give their child at any point in time. You can go on the website and order a book, and you can actually, together with your child, go through all the different careers, read about all the stories, dissect it all, talk about it. And then there's also action items that are tangible, actionable at the end of the book that you can just create a journal, get a journal and then kind of start modeling, journaling, answering and going through all different things that are there for you to, to really think about as you pursue your own career path. So it's something that a parent and their child or their children can do together. So that's like one level of entry. And then the curriculum and the questions and the videos and things around the book are on the website, easy accessible on the website. So once you read about a certain career and a certain woman, go on the website, click on her picture, download the discussion guide, read the questions, answer the questions together, look at some of the videos, look at some of the articles, take your knowledge a step further, right? And then get on the internet and explore even more. So that's one thing that a parent and a child, or a parent and the children, can do together. In addition to that, there is the STEM Gem Summit that happens every March, Women's History Month. We have a summit where we bring together women in STEM across the entire spectrum. And we focus on careers in STEM that are underrepresented by women. So careers in data science, cybersecurity, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, actuary science, etc. We focus on careers where women, again, don't tend to really think about. There's not enough examples, not enough Claire Huxtables that are in popular culture, in popular media, that are there to say, hey, you too can do this. So we really want to focus on growing areas of STEM that are doing impactful work, but again, don't have representation of women at a high level. And so the summit is a way for a parent and a child and an educator and really the community to come together and hear about these careers and meet these women and just understand more about how they make a difference in the world and how they help people. So that's the second thing that a parent can sign up for. And then we have our summer camp, which is another opportunity for girls to really dive deeply into hands-on activities. Again, meet real people in STEM and connect with other girls and just get all your questions answered and have fun while you're doing it. We send you an activity kit in the mail. And so you have all of your materials. We do lots of exciting things throughout the day. So the camp is a really fun experience. And then lastly, we have our clubs. And the clubs are actually run by educators in schools, or run by Girl Scout troop leaders, for example, or run by any organization that services primarily girls, that brings together a group of girls and then goes through our curriculum, our guides, along with the STEM Gems book to really bring these careers to life. So we have about 85 clubs right now across the country, and these educators are really doing a phenomenal job of introducing girls to these careers, these women, and also to hands-on activities and experiences for them to start to picture their future selves as a scientist, a researcher, or innovator, creator, problem solver, which is, again, something that girls have an interest in, but until they have that connection to a real person, until they have a connection to what they can do in the future, then they don't really fully get the importance of what a career STEM can do for them. And they also don't get how it's something that they personally can do. So I think that aspect is really, really important. And that's something that teachers do a fantastic job of just making it all come to life in the classroom.
So you gave 4 methods, and I want to make sure I recap that for our audience that's listening. Amazon Web Services is a global organization. And so I want to make sure for those who are not in North America, who may be watching in from Latin America, who may be watching in from all of our different regions, so Latin America, APJ, or the EMEA, if you want to be involved in STEM Gems, the $1 million question is, how can they? So the first way is definitely purchasing the book, which is actually available online. Am I correct, Stephanie, at Amazon.com?
Yes, absolutely. You can order the book through Amazon, and then you can access the curriculum through the STEMGemsBook.com website.
Awesome. The next way is, joining our summit. Will the summit be in person or virtual, or offering a hybrid of both?
The summit will be virtual for 2022. And what that allows is for us to, of course, reach girls and parents, educators really all over the globe. So we are very mindful that we are, accessing people from all over. And so it's a great opportunity for you to join, whether you live in Canada or, any really part of the world, you can be a part of the summit.
And then your summer camps. Is your summer camp a hybrid? Is it some virtual, or is it all in person? What does that look like as well?
Yeah, so we are hoping that we can have an in-person component of the summer camp. It all depends on our pandemic, honestly, of what we're able to do.
Absolutely.
Next summer. So this past summer, it was virtual, 100% virtual. And we had girls from all over the U.S. and we had one outside the U.S. who were part of the camp. So we'll definitely keep a virtual component of the camp as we continue to grow and hopefully have in-person offerings in multiple parts of the U.S. to start. We'll start off in the Atlanta area where I currently live, and then we'll hopefully start to grow to other parts. But we'll always keep a virtual component to make it accessible to those who are not in the physical location where the camp is being held, and then also have an experience for those who are local.
Absolutely. And last but not least, the clubs. How can someone stay engaged with those clubs throughout the year, or is there just a certain time? Like, what does that club membership or participation look like?
So for the clubs, the clubs are run by educators, by parents, by community leaders. So all you need to do is go to the STEMGemsBook.com website. There's a tab that says club. You click on that tab, and then you can fill the information to start a club. It's really very, very simple to start a club. And then you can access the resources also through the website. And so that is run year round. It's very much self-paced. So the club can decide how often they want to meet. Most of our clubs that are run in the schools are run through the school year. So they start around the month of September and they go through the month of May. They meet regularly throughout that school year. Some of them meet once a week. Some of them meet once every 2 weeks. It really depends on the educator, the person that's running the club. And the way it's structured also is very, it depends on how often you're meeting, how long your sessions are. So a lot of our clubs meet once a week and they focus on one career per week and they meet over that period of time. So they're able to get through all the careers that are featured and highlighted in the book. Other clubs meet for, maybe once a month or twice a month for a longer period of time. So instead of doing one career per meeting, they may do 4 per meeting. And so the way you structure your club is extremely flexible. We work with you to kind of help you decide what's best for you and what's best for your group. And then everybody can have their own way of doing things. As long as you are able to access the resources and go through those with your club, you can do that in different ways.
Stephanie, can you just share with the audience and just share here, we want to understand, how did you determine what was success? Like, what is your metrics of success? How do we know that STEM Gems is the right organization to participate in, whether I'm a parent, whether I'm thinking to be a sponsor, or even a volunteer? How did you determine success here?
So STEM Gems is really about exposure and about exciting girls around careers in STEM that they have never heard of. So what we find is that in the beginning of the club, we ask girls, what STEM careers are you aware of? And they can't name, to be honest, they can't name very many of them. So they may generically say scientists, but when we think about a scientist, there's so many different types of scientists. So we want them to be able to really specify different types of scientists and not just sort of scientists as one group of people. Or engineer, again, a broad term. So what types of engineering are there? So are they able to say there's chemical, nuclear, electrical, mechanical, aeronautical, et cetera, or do they just say engineer? So we want them to be able to think about different types of scientists, different types of engineers, different types of mathematicians, different types of technologists. And we want them to also be able to name a woman in those careers. So when we ask them, okay, what's different types of scientists? Okay, now if you name biologists or chemists, okay, can you tell me the name of a woman who's a chemist? And they're like, no, right? So we want to measure what they know ahead of time, as well as their excitement about these areas as well. So how, on a scale, how likely are you to be a fill in the blank? And most times that likelihood is very low. So by the end of the programming year, then we want to measure that again to see how much they move on the scale. Maybe initially they're like, I'm not really interested in that area. And then we give them this exposure. And now all of a sudden they're super curious about it and they are interested, right? So it's a conversion of awareness of different careers in STEM, as well as awareness of people in those careers, both past and present. Of course, because of the Hidden Figures blockbuster movie, a lot of girls now know who Katherine Johnson is.
Of course.
And Mary Jackson and Dorothy Vaughan. So now they can name those women because of the movie, the film, or the book. But again, when we think about other women, past or present, it's really hard to think of someone, but it may be easier to think of like someone like Einstein, who's more popular, who's in every textbook, than someone like Katherine Johnson, right? So we want them to have at their fingertips role models in all these careers. We want them to be able to think about and list careers and list women and associate them, that career with that woman, and then also raise their affinity and likelihood of pursuing a career in these areas. And so that determines success for us. If we're able to accomplish those kind of 3 primary targets, then we have moved that needle, and it goes from non-exposure to exposure to that repeated exposure, to from a non-interest to some level interest to high interest, and that's a good day for us. I mean, that's a huge win for us. And then ultimately, of course, they have to make the decision of what's best for their future. But at least we can say that they have the tools, they've had the exposure, they had everything they needed to make that decision in terms of considering STEM fields against other areas where they also have an affinity towards. They had all the information and they decided to go down the path that they choose.
Yeah, so something you said I want to just hone in on. So is there a survey that students actually take at the beginning that maybe a competency at the end?
Absolutely, yes. And that's
Okay.
something that we're continuing to build out to be able to really pinpoint which activities resonated the most, making sure that they, tweaking different things. Our curriculum is a huge investment. So we are, of course, wanting to make sure that it's something that works for them, that resonates with them. So that way, we have 5 stars across all the activities. So they're like, oh my gosh, I can't choose. Like, they're all so amazing. So we don't, we need to always think about how to make things better. But yeah, we collect a lot of data from them throughout the club year as well as through the summer camp to be able to make sure that we're getting the information that we need and seeing the results that we want to see.
Awesome. Well, we learned why STEM gems and we learned the creation, but I want to go back in time a little bit and talk a little bit more around what did you go through when you tried to put this together? When you said, hey, I'm leaving my day job at corporate America, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to really gear it towards young women. Talk us through that journey. Did you hit a wall? What was some of those experiences like? If you could go back to yourself, T plus these years or T minus these years, what would you say to yourself at that time?
Well, I think I have always felt that following your passion is extremely important and giving yourself permission to do that. And I've tried to live my life in that way. No regrets. I try to have no regret, so if something's in my heart, I feel like I have to do it. So I think that when I kind of had the thought of writing the book, once it came into my head, it was no going back. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So it was full speed ahead. It was just, how do I go about doing this? Because I don't have any experience. I'm not a writer. I'm an engineer. I don't necessarily know the first thing about publishing a book or any of the process, right? And I also want to say that when the idea came to write the book, that was the focus. The focus was purely on the book, not on the club or the summit or summer camp, or any of those things. It was just like, I feel like this book doesn't exist currently. And if I had this book when I was in middle school, it would have made a huge difference in my life. And I want to have that impact on the next generation. So it was a book for my younger self, as well as every other girl, from 5th to 9th grade, every tween teen age girl, so that was what I set my sight on. So that's what I did. I had a, full-time job at the time, in corporate America. And I was also, of course, working very diligently on research. It was a 3-year process to write the book, from the research to the interviews, to the writing, to the editing, everything, graphics, everything was, took time. So at the end of the day, it was a 3-year journey to produce the STEM Gems book, and a lot of constant, back and forth with the different women that are featured in the book, and making sure that I was sharing their story and their work in a way that resonates with that tween teen age girl, right? Because I didn't want it to be over their head, too technical, where, it was like, I don't understand this. It had to be very relatable, very approachable, for the audience that I was, of course, going after. So that required a lot of editing and reworking different things, and also beta testing with real girls. Read this certain section for me. Does it make sense? Do you understand it? Are you excited about it? How does it make you feel? A lot of that data collection in the process, just to make sure that it was readable for that tween teen age girl. So again, my mindset was, once I actually started or came up with the idea, I got so passionate about it that it had to happen. And once I actually started, again, there was no turning back. And I had the support of so many different people that just validated the importance of it, as well as kept me encouraged to keep going, especially at times when I'm like, oh my gosh, like, when is this going to end? More interviews, more this, more that, back and forth. emailing people that initially didn't, a lot of the women that are featured are people that I had never met before. So it was just them trusting me with their story and, wanting to make sure that, one, I actually finished it because they have given me so much time and, been so gracious that it had to be well done and come together. So I think that's something that just kept me going. And I just felt it was important for the world.
You said so many things. I want to applaud you again. This was destined, right, for you, because of many people who have these visions of some amazing things it can do to bridge underrepresented communities doesn't always have success, don't always have support. And what your story has shown is you are a need. You are such a need that the community and the expertise surrounded you. So I just want to acknowledge that today because that's important. So thank you for your work and not giving up and getting that book across the finish line. How many to date? How many books have you sold, if you don't mind sharing, or how many camps have you done? I would love to be able to quantify these things. And what year did you actually get started? There's so many questions about. I would love to kind of get that origin.
Yeah. So to date, it's around the 10,000 number.
Love it.
And I know that because I actually have to print 2,000 books at a time. Because the book is full color, 232 pages, lots of pictures, lots of colors, very vibrant inside, and of course the cover. It's very expensive to print. And so I have to print bulk. It can't be that print on demand model that a lot of the black and white books or just shorter books can do that model. Mine is definitely print in bulk. So that's how I'm able to kind of definitely know, like, okay, how many print runs have we done, right? So every 2,000 copies, so then another 2,000 are printed, which is a lot of pressure because we have 2,000 books sitting in a warehouse. So it's like we need to push these books. So it's another thing that just gets me excited to like make sure that these don't just sit with dust collecting on them, that people are actually using them and learning from them and that they're in the world for people to have and to read and to learn from. And so in terms of clubs, I mentioned earlier that we have about 85 groups that have registered their club. We're part of the process we're in now with the clubs is really is acquiring funding to be able to support them even more so than we can do now. So we have so much interest in the clubs, and a lot of the groups that are starting clubs are groups that are lower income neighborhoods or under-resourced schools that need this type of thing in their school, but maybe don't have the funding to do so. So we're working really hard to be able to provide them with the tools they need so that they can have the experiences that more resource schools have and more resource communities have. So that's always, work to be done in that area. In terms of our summits and our summer camp, we have, hundreds of families that attend the summit and that, have attended our summer camp. So we're in the infancy of some of these things, a couple years in. And so we just have big goals and big dreams to be able to reach more and more girls, and not just on a one-time basis. We want to have a bigger impact and bring them back, having repeat experiences and exposure to them, similar to what they can do in the school, having that regular weekly or bi-monthly meetings. We want to do the same thing with our summit and our camps. So one of the things we're working to do is offer, when girls come for the summer camp, they come back every summer. So we're bringing them back in, we're tracking them over time. We're collecting that data to really show more of a long-term, data of what happens even beyond middle school. So that just requires, a lot of work on our side and funding to be able to make those things happen. But that's something that we definitely envision for the future.
So as we wrap up, I have one question, then I have two questions from the audience. But here's the $1 million question. If I am a corporate, if I have a corporation, or if I'm a parent, how can I be involved today to support STEM Gems?
Absolutely. If you are a parent or a mentor or a teacher, educator of some sort, or an adult who wants to empower someone in your community, then definitely go get the book. Amazon.com, stemgemsbook.com, get it. And don't just get it and gift it, but hold that person accountable to reading together, exploring together, having conversations, having dialogue. That's extremely important. It's more impactful that way. Just a quick little side note. I have a young daughter. She's 8 years old. We read every night. And not only do we read every night, but we have discussions. So it's important for us to read and then talk about what we read, what excites her, what questions does she have, you know? So I think the same thing with this book. The more you can have the conversations around it, so instead of just saying, read this or here's this, but to actually talk about it, the more real it becomes. So for parents and educators and mentors, have the conversations around it and use the website as a resource to pull questions and to just get more insight into what it is that you are gifting to that student, that girl. As for corporations, and I'm so glad you asked, because, you know, STEM Gems is a nonprofit. And so if we really want our work to reach underserved populations, to reach minority groups, to reach girls who don't have a lot of exposure, it does require a lot of funding and a lot of manpower to do so. So we're always looking for partnerships in order to make that happen. And we want to be able to, if a school is interested in starting a club, we don't want them to not pursue it because they don't have the funding to do so. So that's something that a corporation can certainly help us with. Partner with us to help us in this effort to be able to give girls role models, give them this exposure, give them this excitement about STEM, so we can help together to close this gender gap. And then also for the women in STEM careers, we encourage you to share your story, to be visible in your community. We're busy and we wear many hats. We're mothers, we're aunts, we work a lot, we travel a lot, we have a lot of responsibilities. But the best thing you can do is give your time to your local school, your local middle school for career day, or just pop in, or even sponsor a club in your local school or in a school of your choosing. We've had plenty of women to do that who have said, you know what, I love this. There's a local school in my area where I can totally see them benefiting from this club model. How do we get this? How do we support this in this school? And I love that, because now you not only have the club in the school, but you also have the buy-in from a woman in a STEM career in that community who can really help spearhead and support, the school and their efforts. We have a lot of our clubs that are successful are because they have the guidance and mentorship of a woman in STEM. And so that's been really helpful as well. So that's another way to get involved. If you're an individual woman, sponsor a club or volunteer to speak at one of our clubs. If you're a corporation, partner with us, help us out in helping us to reach our goals, helping us to build and extend our curriculum and have a bigger impact.
So, I want to say thank you for this. So one, you gave me some insight of how I can be involved. Living in New York City, I live in Harlem, in East Harlem particularly. And we have some of the lowest income brackets in some of the zip codes in New York City, Manhattan. And now I know a way I can be involved. Maybe sponsoring a STEM Gym camp, or a course, a curriculum there, volunteering afterwards, or even talking to different corporations on how we can be involved. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I do think that's important. I think we just have time for one question, and in 1 minute. This is from Kellen Jones out in Seattle. And he said, Stephanie, thank you so much for today. He's learned so much. He just wants to stay curious and wonder, would you be open to outside of females and looking at young men from low-income communities to be engaged?
Yeah, I definitely feel that when we think about representation in STEM, we have, of course, a huge gap when it comes to women in STEM. I mentioned the numbers earlier. We have a huge gap when it comes to people of color as well, and that includes boys. And so while STEM Gems is focused primarily on girls, we actually do have a number of clubs that that participation from boys as well. And so we do not, we feel that if boys want to be a part of this conversation, that again centers around women in STEM, then yes, then let that be a model for a club to include boys that want to be inclusive, that want to be a part of the conversation, that want to be part of solving the problem. And also in terms of mentorship and speakers, absolutely, we can't do much in moving the needle without our allies, our male allies, our counterparts who are just happen to be men. So as I mentioned earlier, when I had my first internship, my manager was a man and my mentor was a man. So and they were huge in making that experience very enjoyable and helping me to learn a ton in that first internship experience. So yeah. I do feel that men are an important part of the equation and helping us reach our overall goal of getting more girls excited about STEM and more people of color as well.
Thank you for that, because I'll say we all know that often the community that's left behind is underrepresented minorities in tech. Black, Latinx, Native American, LGBTQ+, people with disabilities, people with accessibilities, military veterans, and et cetera. They're being left behind. But I appreciate the flexibility and really answering that question and providing transparency. We understand that it's targeted around females, but we're not going to turn away a young male as well. So I appreciate that, and thank you for giving some more color and context. Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We've learned so much, how to get involved and engaged, but more importantly, how can we change the stereotypical thoughts around being in tech for young women today? We appreciate you. Everyone that's here, please make sure that you attend all of the All Builders Welcome events. We have a wonderful over 30 sessions for inclusion, diversity, and equity, ranging from technology all the way to being engaged and creating an inclusive environment. Please come see us at the All Builders Welcome Lounge. Have an amazing day. And it's Jamika Pankey signing off.